Welcome back to Breaking Bet, everybody, here on this November 7th. The month for some people is No Shave November, but you know what it is. I got my guy, Tony Cutillo here. Eric Pauly is off for the night, so I had to bring in somebody different. I've been following Tony for a while now. We go back and forth on some of our takes, so I'm glad to have him in. Tone, thanks for joining, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm happy to be here, man. It's been a while. Like we talked all fair. It's like you just, you talk to people and follow people, and then you finally get that opportunity. It's like, oh wow, look at this. You got a new football buddy, man. So it's all good, brother. It's all good.
Yeah, Breaking Bet welcoming Tony Cutillo here for this Thursday night matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens. The first game was absolutely electric, just under 80 points the final score was. But Tony, before we get into tonight's game and the rest of the week, what's your favorite look coming into this Week 10 spot?
You mean my favorite game?
Yeah, favorite game, if you have a favorite play, just something you're most interested in.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but I am obviously I'm very, very intrigued for tonight, only because listen, it's the highest over and under on the slate. We're expecting a lot of fireworks, right? So and then look, for me personally, I'm a Philly guy. So Philly Dallas week is always, no matter if they're bad, no Dak, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's Philly Dallas. So that listen, and again, the Eagles are starting to roll a little bit. So very, very intrigued. And then also, man, I want to see this Buffalo Indianapolis game only because I want to see if Joe Flacco can actually revert back to the Joe Flacco we thought how he was going to run this offense. So, and listen, over and under 47 looks like they're thinking about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a game that I think could be a little bit trappy. We're going to get a little bit more into that later on in the show. But for me, I think Washington at home, 2.5 points. It's trending towards 3 right now. The Commanders have looked absolutely fantastic. Jaden Daniels off the charts, man. I'm falling in love watching this kid play football. I actually took an MVP ticket on him after they beat the Bengals at 111-1. So I took a little sprinkle there. So obviously I got a lot of JD love going on right now. And I think going up against this Pittsburgh defense that's performed as one of the best units in football so far this year, I think it's going to be a great matchup, especially against those receivers with Terry McLaurin, who's really blossoming into the guy that we all know he could be. Finally got a competent quarterback, and you see what's happening there.
Yeah, now 100%. Listen, Scary Terry was that guy. A lot of people, if you were in early preseason fantasy football drafts, they shied away from him only because they weren't sure. We didn't know Jaden Daniels was going to be this good. I mean, at least I didn't know, and a lot of people didn't know, right? So it is good to see him validate the skills and, the talent that we know he's always had to get that, that competent quarterback. And then also the same way is, Zach Ertz, man, I think they really did a good job out there in Washington because, Zach Ertz is that kind of guy that he's a pretty elite route runner. He's not going to get you a lot of yak. He's not going to get you any, but he's a route runner. He's a grounded guy. So they surrounded Jaden Daniels with, a lot of talent. And on the other end, man, listen, I am Mr. Mike Tomlin, for those who don't know me, is my favorite coach of all time. If I was starting a franchise, I would start with Mike 100 times over. What he did, the way he handled this whole situation, I think was brilliant. I really do. For all the people that said it shouldn't have happened, listen, man, we all knew 10 touchdowns for Justin Fields. It just wasn't going to get it done, right? So I do love watching this Pittsburgh team, and I'm excited, man. They find listen, Mike Williams, for what it is, they get a number 2 receiver finally to go ahead with George Pickens. So I'm curious to see how this offense rolls.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that one in a little bit, but Tone, we got business to attend to first, my man. The Cincinnati Bengals in a royal mint spot at the Baltimore Ravens with a high total of 52.5. This is the highest total on the board. I mentioned it earlier. This score hit almost 80 points in their first showdown, a game that honestly Cincinnati should have won, but they squandered it, and now they have a chance on a short week on the road to make amends for what could have been a month ago. Now, Tony, I know I know you follow me on Twitter, and I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I have coined the most profitable bet in NFL history, and I named it the Royal Mint. The road dog catching exactly 5 or 5.5 points on the close. Now, there's a 5.5 here on FanDuel. There's a 6 on DraftKings. So we still have about 2 hours left till game time. So I want to see where this officially closes. But that aside, do you feel the Cincinnati Bengals are due for a little revenge here? Or do you think Baltimore is the better team and blows them away at home on the short week?
I don't see any way that Cincinnati comes into Baltimore and one of, if not the hottest team in football, and just takes care of business. And listen, you mentioned it, 41-38 was the score, with the first time they met. And yeah, it was squandered away, this and that, but the defense of the Cincinnati Bengals is terrible. Okay. Like literally it is terrible. And listen, Baltimore's isn't like it used to be. Okay, but they made some draft day deals or some trade deadline deals. So they are putting it all together. And listen, even Lamar Jackson with a sore knee on a short week, they're doing a lot of load management with him. Dude, this team, you bring over Deontay Johnson, who is an extremely very, very versed route runner, and you pair him up with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews. I mean, come on, man. Derrick Henry setting up records, and Justice Hill is a very competent number 2 scat back. I just don't see how they keep this close at home. This is a different team on both sides, but I think Baltimore wins by double digits.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like I got to go with Cincinnati here, at least on the spread. I do think this is a hard game to win. Had this been on a Sunday, a better chance with a few more days of preparation. Obviously, it would be more in favor of Cincinnati winning. I am in agreement with you to the sense that their defense, it's really not that good. I felt like, there's a lot of opportunities this year that they could have been better, and they weren't. There was a couple games that I felt like against Carolina, a couple things went their way, and the score looked a little bit bigger than it should have been. Against Baltimore, they couldn't stop them a lick. They let up 41 points. As good as their offense is, I mean, I understand it. But I feel like, though, with Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, they understand it's not just about staying in any sort of hunt for the division, but also – they got to make sure they're in the groove here to be staying in contention for a playoff spot. So, Baltimore, right now, they're red hot. Lamar's playing great. Derrick Henry's playing great. Zay Flowers is building on a strong rookie year from last year. You pick up Deontay, who's probably going to be getting a decent allotment of snaps after last week virtually didn't play. And Keaton Mitchell's coming back, who's huge. He's the human joystick, basically. So, my head is telling me to go Ravens, but I want to go Cincinnati here, whether you're taking the 5.5 or the 6. I do think this is going to be a close game. Maybe the Ravens do win, but I like the Bengals here. I like Burrow to throw for a lot of yards. I like Jamar Chase to go nuts. I think Chase Brown's going to get in the end zone at some point. But give me Cincinnati here with the points here, Tone.
Hey, man, listen, I get it, right? There's 2 ways to look at this, and my way is just saying that it's the second time around, and in the beginning of the year where there's virtually no preseason and teams are still trying to break out the wrinkles, that this the second time around. They know each other. They know, they obviously know their tendencies, and I just, maybe that's just me going with the home team and the elite offense, in my opinion. So we'll see, man. Either way, it's going to be a lot of fireworks, a lot of good games. I got a ton of props for this game. So I can't wait, man. I'm excited.
I hope like there's all the hype, right? It's going to be just like last game.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, bro, is this going to be some slop fest, like 21-17? Each team turns the ball over 3 times. Just some garbage Thursday night game to go along with basically every other Thursday night contest that we get. That's like probably one of my biggest concerns here is
let's hope
disaster. Yeah, let's hope not. Right? All right, let's get to your game here. You're excited about the Bills Colts. Bills 3.5 point favorite on the road. Joe Flacco a hot pile of garbage against Minnesota. I liked Minnesota not only cover last Sunday, but win outright. I have a crazy division parlay on a free bet, which did include the Colts to win the AFC South previously before the Texans lost to the Jets. Listen, I got to be honest. I think this is a game the Colts can definitely surprise on. I don't know if Joe Flacco is going to have 2 disasters in a row. But right now, man, the way the Bills are playing, Josh Allen looks great. He's the favorite in the MVP race right now. It's an award that's been elusive to him. The voters have never given it to him. I think he's kind of smelling it right now. Do you think Buffalo is going to be able to take care of business, or are you going to go with the Colts getting a field goal and a hook at home?
I'll tell you what. I actually, after watching them play last week, even though it was an abysmal game, but if you're a sports bettor, you're always going to watch a game, even if it's terrible, right? So I'm watching the game, and I was very, very impressed at how that front defensive line played for the Indianapolis Colts. And the first thing I'm looking at this Buffalo game was a game that, with a guy like Josh Allen who likes to take off and run, a guy like James Cook who likes to run, Ray Davis, if he's in the game, likes to run, Ty Jot, doesn't matter who's in, they like to run the ball. And if that defensive front is able to get to Josh Allen and flush him out early and make him go and revert to a couple mistakes, this could be a different game. So if Beans are home and Beans, I saw them play that well, I'll be honest with you, I like the Colts in this game. I really do. I do. I know it's a 3.5 line, but I'm going to tell you, man, my gut says that this is going to be a different team that comes out, and they're going to give Buffalo some fits. Listen, even though Josh Allen's playing well, the Buffalo offense still hasn't had a consistent game-to-game like obliteration, man. So this could be one of those games where they fall back a little bit.
Yeah, definitely one where I think this could be a buy low spot on Indy. I'm going to go with the Bills. In addition to the Royal Mint, this play isn't as successful over the years, but this year there's been very few. And when I say very few, there's been maybe 2 or 3 times where a team who's a 3.5 point favorite has not covered. Week 1, Miami was one, and then I think one happened last week or 2 weeks ago. I like laying the 3.5s with the favorites. I think there's a thing where a lot of people say, well, I'm getting a field goal and a hook. That's a key number. If it comes down to a kick at the end of the game, we're gonna cover because it's 3.5. I personally think most of these 3.5 point games end up being larger margins of victory. For some reason, it's just how it's rolled. It's one of these trends that I've been following in terms of what a number is. But in terms of the overall matchup, I am in agreement that the Colts front seven can definitely get after. Grover Stewart played a hell of a game. DeForest Buckner is one of the best interior linemen in football. But my thing is, if the Bills get up early and have to, start abandoning the run a little bit, then what does that look like? Flacco might get some stats, but what does that look like for Joe Flacco, who struggled against a pretty solid Minnesota Vikings defense last week?
Yeah, listen, it could smell doom, man. It really could. I mean, he did not look good at all. And if one thing about Joe is if you rush Joe, right, and you get to Joe, he's going to make mistakes. And he's not 25-year-old Joe Flacco anymore, right? So he's kind of got that Kirk Cousins vibe in a sense that as long as you don't touch Kirk, as long as you let Kirk do his thing, he'll pick you apart. But if you start rushing him and you start getting him and harrying him, he falls apart. So it should be interesting. One thing I want to point out in this game too, I know you're a big line guy. I'm a huge prop guy. And one prop in this game that stands out to me, again, I don't know why it's there again, is Ray Davis. His receiving prop is at over 2.5 yards at -115. Last week, It was the same thing, and I crushed it at over 2.5. On a team, you just mentioned DeForest Buckner, on a team that's going to make Josh Allen get rid of the ball quick. The dump offs to James Cook and Ray Davis are going to be at a premium. There's no way, in my opinion, he doesn't at least get one catch for 5 yards to hit that over 2.5. So just pointing that out too.
That's interesting. The Colts are actually in the bottom half of allowing receiving yards to running back. So that's an absolutely interesting prop. My guy Crutch here said Bills host Chiefs next week too. Could be a sleepy on the road at Lucas Oil. Definitely a good point there. Wouldn't shock me to see the Colts win because they're a streaky team. Next game is going to be the Atlanta Falcons -3.5 at the New Orleans Saints. Tone, I'll let you take this one first.
Man, this is now just fired their coach, man. Dennis Allen gets fired, right? So it's all about how's this team going to come out. They are at home. So will there'll be a letdown? Will there be a new kind of energy? I personally think that Dennis Allen got shafted. There's tons of injuries on this team. Chris Olave, who's the other receiver? I'm losing for my Rashid Shaheed, who was one of my picks as a third-year wide receiver coming into this year. So really, what's he supposed to do? Man, what is he supposed to do? And if you go on the other end, listen, Atlanta is playing extremely well. But one thing, the New Orleans defense is still, I know Lattimore's not there anymore. They traded him away, but just their front line is very stout. And they have a very good linebacking core as well. So, they could cause Kirk Cousins some fits, even though Kirk's been on fire. So, just looking at this game and looking at that, there's that 3.5 line again. I still think Atlanta could be too strong in this game for, them not to cover.
A lot of people are buying Atlanta, especially after last week's win against Dallas. Here's my thing with Atlanta. What they've shown thus far is against teams with winning records, they have not been able to cut it. But teams against, losing records, that's really where they've done their damage. I would lean Atlanta here. 3.5 points on the road in New Orleans. This, for at least a while during the 2010s, was one of the most underrated rivalries in not just football, but in sports. These two teams hate each other. I do think New Orleans is gonna fight and keep this one close for a little while, but ultimately Atlanta right now, they're grooving. I think, especially now with no Marshawn Lattimore, I like Atlanta here to win this game and probably win by about a touchdown.
It's not that I can't say it, man. I think this could go either way, man. I really do. And look out for Darnell Mooney in this game to really have a good with no over the top coverage and Dale Lattimore. This could be a big game for Darnell Mooney.
Oh, Darnell Mooney, man. It's nice to finally see that guy rolling, bro. It really is. Saints actually allow the 5th most yards to wide receivers, so this could definitely be a Mooney game. San Francisco 49ers, -6.5 at Tampa Bay, fresh off the bye. Bucks on the short week. Tone, this is a Niner spot for me. Bye week, whether McCaffrey's back or not, which it does look like he's trending towards playing. I really like Tampa, and I thought they were going to win the division this year. And, they blow the first game on Thursday night to Atlanta, a game that they should have won. They lose Mike Evans. They lose Chris Godwin for the year. It's a stroke of bad luck. And, Todd Bowles, we could make the decision whether he should have went for 2 or not. I personally think he should have, considering the circumstance. But either way, Tampa is a competitive team. They're a lot of fun to watch. And in past years, San Francisco has dominated Tampa. Now, this Bucs roster is a lot worse than what it was the last couple years without their wide receivers. I think San Francisco, with the rest, is going to blow them away.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here, and I think this is a credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is the over and under at being 50.5. And I say that because even without Mike Evans and even without Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield is still showing up, man. Baker Mayfield is still balling out. I love that dude, man. I really do. And they're finding ways. Liam Cohen is finding ways to get this done and piece it together. And this isn't the Niners defense of old, man. This isn't the same defense. So that's why the number is high. But that being said, I just Kyle Shanahan, after a bye, offensive guru, against this really, really lackluster defense right now. I see no reason why the Niners did, like our boy Crutch is saying there, no way they don't smash them, man. I do. I think it's not a game. I'm just interested to see how much Christian McCaffrey's used. I really am. I don't think that people have to kind of temper their expectations a little bit. I think he may be on maybe like a 15 limit snap count. We shall see. But either way, Niners all the way.
Yep, same here. This is an interesting one. You have Kansas City laying 7.5 at home against Denver. Denver just got their cheeks clapped in Baltimore, which, there's worse things in the world. I mean, the Ravens are kind of doing that to everybody nowadays. Whereas Kansas City, man, like as great as they are, I think a lot of people say it's one of the worst 8-0 teams they've ever seen. It's a team that is not very good against the spread, especially a bigger spread. I don't know, man. I think I see a path here for Denver to maybe cover this number. I'm not saying they win, but, this is a team that can score, when they have certain things going their way with Bo Nix running and Javonte Williams getting going. And obviously, Kansas City's defense has been rated as one of the better ones this year, even though Tampa Bay kind of showed that even without their full weapons, they were able to move the ball and score on them. What do you think about Denver here?
Man, Denver's one of my favorite teams, man. And I think it's because I'm a big fan of Sean Payton, always have been. I know he was getting a lot of flack in the beginning and say, oh, here he goes. He's egotistical. He's not listening. I was like, nah, man, he just wants his way. Once he gets his players, you're going to start to see that team turn around. And you mentioned Bo Nix. And one thing that this defense, and even though they have a Hall of Fame coordinator in Spags out there, they still struggle against mobile quarterbacks. They give them fits, right? So Bo Nix, if he's able to kind of give them a couple fits and then they can put some points on the board, listen, Vance Joseph's done a pretty decent job in big time games, okay, in order to stop the opposing quarterback. And let's not forget, Patrick Mahomes, even though he came back, the ankle's still a problem. So let's just see what happens. But I do think, like you said, I'm not saying Denver's going to win, but I don't think Kansas City covers. I really don't.
Yeah, I think this is a tough spot. The defense for Denver is pretty good. Patrick Surtain has played lights out this year. Before he went down with a concussion, he was getting some real steam for Defensive Player of the Year. So definitely thinking Denver on this side at this point in the week, Tone. All right, let's get to one of my favorite games on the board. We alluded to it a little bit earlier in the show. Commanders, 2.5 points at home. It is trending towards a 45.5 point total. Hit me with your best shot.
Man. I will say this. I am so impressed by this Commanders team. And I thought people were off their rocker in the preseason saying that they had an opportunity to win the NFC East. I was like, there ain't no way. Like, who are these people? I think it was that bozo Chris Sims was even predicting it. And I was like, all right, there's no way. But then a couple credible people start talking about it. And now Chris
Sims is my guy, Tone. Chris Sims is my guy from NBC. We got a good rapport from our days at NBC together.
I'm sorry, man, but he buried us. He buried our Eagles guys a long time ago. Okay, so I don't have no love lost there, right? But listen, no disrespect to his analytical ability, but his fandom it hurts sometimes. But looking at this from a betting perspective, you see the low total, and the low total is because listen, these are two very good defenses. You say what you want, but Pittsburgh will always have a great front seven. They still have Minkah Fitzpatrick back there patrolling in the secondary, who could make Jaden Daniels make some mistakes with some different looks. We shall see. But looking at this, I would say, and I know that they're cooking out there in Pittsburgh, but I like Washington in this game, man. I really do. I like Washington, to cover. Okay. And I listen, I don't care about Tomlin coming off a bye. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just looking at this from a one whole perspective is Washington's getting healthier. Okay. And there's still a very good team at home. So I'm going to take Washington on this one.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I think the Commanders at home is a good spot here. I feel like if they do what they do best and run the ball heavy, and let Jaden Daniels hit some of these big play actions, get a big shot down the field, and that's really where it's going to come from. Pittsburgh picked up Preston Smith from Green Bay, which is a very, very good and underrated move. That's somebody opposite of TJ Watt, which makes him more deadly. But ultimately, I think Washington right now has got something special cooking, man. I really do. And personally, for my ticket, like I feel like if they're able to beat Pittsburgh this week and turn around on the short week against the Eagles next week and win, Jane Daniels' numbers, man, he's going to keep going up and up. So give me Washington here, man. We're seeing some real steam. Dan Quinn is definitely the favorite for Coach of the Year for a reason.
Yep.
Let's go Washington.
I like it, man. I like, and shout out to Dan Quinn too. I had no idea from what I was reading and what I've been hearing from beat reporters, and that he was such a great motivator. I didn't, from what I read about him, and this is why this team has really been uplifted. So good for him, man.
He's a Jersey guy. All right, Jets small favorite at Arizona. So Tone, let me say this: 2022. In 2023, there was nobody in the world that had a better read on the Arizona Cardinals than me. I knew what they were going to do before they knew what they were going to do. That said, this year I've seen some regression. I've been complete hit or miss. Earlier in the season, I had some really good looks against them. Lately, I have not had a strong feel. And I say this every week, and I know you're new to the show, but my boy Eric, my co-host, will vouch for this. Every single week I say the same shit. The Arizona Cardinals are the highest variance team in the NFL. When they decide to show up, they look like one of the best teams in the league. When they don't want to show up, they look like one of the worst. This is why I have trouble with this. Jets, I think the Jets are going to be a trendy pick this week. They're coming off extra rest. They're back. Everybody thinks they're back. Devontae Adams, Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, like it just seems too good to be true here. Personally, I'm a little concerned for these Jets. I think this Cardinals game could be very tough. James Conner can have a good game here. Kyler, if he uses his legs. We know the Jets have struggled against the ground game this season. I think this one right now I need a little bit more time on. What say you?
For me, it's as easy for me. And maybe it's because I have a little bit of a bias against Jonathan Gannon, and I'm the guy who says Kyler Murray will never win a Super Bowl. I don't care how talented he is. But I'm going to go, Aaron. I'm going to go New York Jets. And the reason why is this is total cut call. He is an ego guy. Okay. And I am sorry, but there's no way in hell that Aaron Rodgers is going to go out easy, right? So, I saw some really good chemistry between him and Devontae Adams, obviously, but the hell of a catch by Garrett Wilson again, man, just unbelievable. Listen, I do think that they have enough momentum and enough steam to go in Arizona, take care of business, and ride that momentum from last week.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, I know you gotta roll pretty soon, but we got 3 more games. Let's hammer them out. Eagles -7 at Dallas this weekend. Cooper Rush is taking over for Dak Prescott. One question I have for you: do you think right now Dak Prescott is addition by subtraction, and Cooper Rush actually gives them a better chance to win, or at least cover?
Isn't that crazy? Just think about that question, man. Like all the money they gave him, we're actually saying, could Cooper Rush be a better alternative to that? No, I don't think it matters. I think this team is completely cooked. I really do. Everything about it, they're unprepared. You watch them on a daily basis. They don't know play calls. They're not getting plays in quick enough. Defensively, they look terrible. The best thing they have going for them is the best kicker in the NFL. That's the best thing they have, right? I mean, and Mike McCarthy's on his way out. They didn't give them any kind of running backs this year for any kind of running game. It's everything about this team is cooked to me. So no, I mean this is. I know it's. Here's the thing though. 7 is still a lot for me, and I will say that from a betting perspective because I can't just say I'm all good with the Eagles now, even though they're my team. Like they're all back. They're back. I will say, though, that their defense and their secondary with Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean has been playing out of their mind. Cooper DeJean, since he came on the field, has been the third best defensive back in all of football. Okay, which is crazy. So give me, I'll take Eagles on the money line. How's that? And I'll bypass the points.
All right. I need a little bit more time here. I want to see if people buy the Eagles and get this up to maybe 8.5, something along those lines. All right. Detroit Lions, another 3.5 spot at Houston. The Nico Collins return is still questionable. Not sure if he's going to be back this week or not. But Tone, it doesn't matter. I'm going Lions all day. This was my preseason Super Bowl team. They are rolling. They are red hot. This Texans offensive line is not good. Their defense is still a presence, but I think Detroit's schemes are still going to be too much for Houston here. I think Detroit wins by 7 Sunday night.
Yeah, I am 100% with you. I've watched a lot of Texans games this year. My son's favorite player is CJ Stroud. So, I have the NFL package. So we have like 3 TVs on Sunday. We watch Red Zone. I watch the Birds, and then I watch the Texans for them. And that offensive line they can't block. Pass block. Now, Joe Mixon, when he's in there running, no matter what, he's hit holes. They're opening up holes, but pass blocking, just not doing it. And the problem is now what you're seeing is without Stephon Diggs, without Nico Collins, your number one receiver becomes Tank Dell, who, what is he? He's a long receiver, which means you need extra time for routes to develop. And guess what? They're not pass blocking. There's no protection. So I have no doubt in my mind that Detroit comes in there, takes care of business at least by 10. So give me Detroit.
Last but not least, we have the Monday night game, Miami at Los Angeles. Kick us off here.
Oh man, this is my McDreamy guy, man. Like I have a Sean McVay man crush, bro. Seriously, from an offensive standpoint, don't get it twisted. But I will say, listen, what he's been able to do this year, I think has been extraordinary. A lot of people might not look at it, because who knows where this is going to lead till to the end of the year. But Matt Stafford. Okay, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL, does not get enough respect for me. He's been doing things without Cooper Kupp, without Puka Nacua. Damn near, he's got the Marcus Robinson being a touchdown monster. And we can't say enough about Kyron Williams, man. We cannot say enough. Now, the only thing that could be a trap in this game is, shockingly, they get rid of their best corner in Tre'Davious White. So I was a little surprised at that. So does that open up a big game for Tyreek Hill? We shall see. But I think this is going to be Devon A-Chain versus Kyron Williams. We'll see who it winds up. But I'm actually going to go Rams, and because I'm going to go with the coach, and I think McVay's a better coach.
I agree. I'm with the Ramley here on Monday night. I think they're the better team. They have the better quarterback. Miami, listen, they have talent on defense. It doesn't make sense why they keep giving up 30 points, 28 points. It's strange. I'm not all the way sold on the Rams. I know there's been talk for them to win the division. You look at what happened in Seattle. They should have won that game. They let them back in. They needed an unbelievable throw for Matthew Stafford. It's quite bizarre. I do love Stafford. I love the Rams, but I don't know about them in terms of winning the NFC West. I definitely think this is a playoff team right now, and I think they win Monday night. This is a matchup for them. I just don't think the Miami Dolphins are going to be able to stop them enough. I think they give the ball to Kyron 20-plus times and take their shots with Puka, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Robinson, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree, man. And one thing I'll just say is, I can't wait to watch. It's another good game. It's another game from an offensive standpoint that we should enjoy watching. So that's a good thing for us.
Yeah. Tone, I know you got to go. So we that's why we cut the slate short today. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait to get you back on throughout the season.
Yeah, man. I had a blast, brother. I enjoyed it. So hopefully some of the insight comes to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Best of luck this weekend with your bets. And as always, tune back in next week when I run it back with Mr. Eric Pauly, a.k.a. Slime Action. Best of luck.